We on? Can everyone hear me? Sorry, just setting everything up. There we go. Just finishing off the run sheets. Everyone's jumping on. Can hear me clearly. Thank you, Stefanos. We'll give it another 30 seconds just to get some more people on. Not much, mate. Just working away, trying to keep up with all the news, not just for Collingwood, just all the AFL stuff in general. There's so much happening. Not a lot of Collingwood stuff, which is sort of good. Not good for content stuff, but good in general. No news is good news. So we'll make a start to it. So welcome to the Black and White United show. I'm your host, Andreas. We are live on Facebook, on YouTube. We get that right. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Before I start, I would urge everybody to jump on the Into the Woods podcast. I say it every week, but this time it's a bit more special because I was on there. They've posted it already on Apple Play or Apple Music, I think it is, Spotify, YouTube. It does go for like an hour and 40, but if you're a Collingwood supporter, you would be pretty intrigued by it all. You could tell, I was listening back to it, and you could tell sort of by the end of it, my voice was getting a bit croaky and stuff. It was getting late. I think we finished at like 10 to 10, but it was good. We went through like almost pretty much every player, had some topics and stuff to discuss, but it was really good. We recapped on their interview with Leon Davis, which was awesome. So I suggest everyone, when you're done, or tomorrow when you're driving or whatever, chuck it on Spotify and stuff. It's awesome. But we'll get straight to it. So there's been a lot of talk and a lot of stuff happening outside of Collingwood. Brendan Gale, again, with the whole Tassie stuff, has gone on SEN, I think it was yesterday, and just talking about the benefits of what playing for Tassie could be. And I'm slowly, in the back of my mind, starting to get a little bit triggered by it, because there's going to be a lot of like positives and stuff like that for players to go down there. And if they get a fair few concessions and stuff like that, I am a little bit worried about it. But that's a story for the next couple of years. But leading into that, obviously the news with Ken Hinkley going, leaving Port Adelaide at the end of this season. Josh Carr's obviously going straight into the Port Adelaide job, and I'm just got that feeling that Tassie are going to go like hell for leather at Chris Scott to leave Geelong and go there for a few years to set it all up, very similar to potentially what Kevin Sheedy did at GWS, and then Ken Hinkley to go to Geelong. I think that would be just a seamless transition. They're going to have a lot of options, Tassie. I am a little bit worried that they might go down the Buckley path, but I also think Bucks might not want to coach because he's doing so well in the media now. But that's a story for another day. There's not a lot of news coming out outside of Collingwood. There's an article on the AFL website about LDU to see if he's going to stay at North Melbourne. I'm still convinced, and every day, like when I think about this, we're going to get one of Petrarca, Rao, or LDU. We're going to go nuts to try and get one of them in the side for next season. The other news, really, I mean, there's nothing really happening outside of the Collingwood world. Fev went to AFLW, or to Richmond's AFLW coaching ranks. So, I mean, if I'm going to mention that, it's obviously been pretty quiet. But let's just get straight to it. I don't have a hell of a lot to talk about tonight. I spoke a lot on the podcast the other night, which was awesome. So as I said, I do urge everyone to go and listen to that. But probably something that I did want to have a chat tonight about, and I'll get to it, and I'll get to the comments and stuff like that first before I start talking about it. But I really want to sort of discuss and see what everyone's opinions are about, like which players can play dual positions in our team. I think it's something that we're finally, because of like the injuries that we've had, I think it's all culminated from the injuries that we've had, our pickups of players from other teams who could play in different positions, and we've got them as something else. Dan McStay being one of them. Also, Mason Cox, is he better as a backup ruckman? Can you play him forward? All that type of stuff. So I want to sort of try and get people's understanding of who they think can play in these positions, because it's not very often you have a side where so many players can play different roles. And I would prefer us, for our players, this is your role and that's it for the season. But with injuries and stuff like that come into it, you got to have that. You got to have those options. So that's the main thing that I want to see, that I want to talk about tonight, and that I want to see for the season. But I want to get other people's opinions, more or less, to see if I'm sort of like on the right path in my thinking and stuff. Because at the end of the day, I'm just a supporter as well. But I'll get to the comments now. So once again, thank you everybody for joining. Opening round team, I did do that last week, and I do apologize because I haven't actually posted it in the comments like I said I would. So what I'll do is tonight, I'll do the team after this video goes up on YouTube. In the comments, I will put it in the comments of my opening round team, and I'll pin it. So it'll be the first comment there. I apologize. I think last week I just totally forgot to do it after the live. So that's my bad. Kev, hope your ankle's a bit better from last week. How many games do you think Mason Cox will play this year? Look, to be honest, I don't know, but I'm really thinking that if he gets a shot in opening round, it's going to go one of two ways. If he gets a shot in opening round, okay, and the Cox-Cameron combination works really well, he should be able to keep his spot. With that being said, when you've got Dan Houston then coming in round one, you're automatically going to have to make a shuffle around. And that's where I think maybe no matter how good he plays in opening round, he may get kicked out of the team, which there's not much you can do about it because we're just so stacked, unfortunately or fortunately. So, look, if it just depends on how the team's going and the structure of the team. There's no reason why he can't play every single game, but he's one of those players that I think he's going to be on the outer. But with that being said, I think his role for us is just so important, and we'll talk about that with the dual position stuff as well. Okay. Tim-Mello, how are you, mates? Thanks for coming on, mate. It was an awesome chat. Yeah, it was good. I loved it. I thought I listened to it in the car the next day when I was driving around and stuff, and I sort of forgot that it was me talking at one stage. It's like, yeah, I really agree with this bloke, and I'm thinking, duh. Okay, apparently Longmire already has the Tassie gig. Look, he has been thrown up in there. I have heard some whispers on the radio and stuff like that he is one of the coaches. And as I said, they're going to have a whole list of coaches to go for. But I reckon Longmire might be. I reckon there's a bit of a wait and see for him, because I think he could be in line for the Freo job if Freo have a down season this year. Because Longmuir, this will be his 4th or 5th year now, and they haven't really done much. If Freo drop off because so many people have got them ranked so high, I think I even had Freo in my ladder, which I'm not happy with now. But I had Freo in 4th, and I reckon that's around where they are, anywhere between 4th and 6th. I think Freo will be. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one, but I have this little suspicion that if they don't make the 8, he's gone, and Longmire might actually be in there. Bozza, thank you for joining. Appreciate it. Season launch is at the AI Vitality Centre, Sunday the 23rd of Feb from 11 till 2, 11:30 till 2. I'm spewing. I'm not going to be able to make it, unfortunately. I'm actually going away to Queensland next weekend, and I just missed the Collingwood game. Maybe I'll cross paths with them at the airport, and I'll be like a full fangirl and get some photos, but going just for a few days away. Chris, doing well, mate. Thank you for joining. Bozzer again. I went to training on January 29th and I'm impressed with Harry Perriman. He can play in defence and midfield, and we're going to talk about that. He's actually one of the guys I've highlighted. I think his role at the start of the season is going to be very interesting, especially with the chops and changes that we're going to have to do for opening round, and against his old side too. I mean, you pretty much know where to play and how they play as well, so it's going to be very interesting, that one. Jimbo, going to be the year of the Magpie. Oh, fuck, I hope so. I'm putting too much effort into this stuff for it not to be. Stephanus Cozy, that's big. Coxie could easily ruck first half and then sub out. Yeah, like I agree with that 100%, but it just probably depends on injuries and stuff like that throughout a game or any sort of tactical sort of changes. Chris, what do you think of Bobby playing midfield and McStay playing ruck? That's what we're going to talk about in a minute. So I will pretty much go back to that one in a minute. Peter, we have a shopping list of players who are versatile. The Dacos boys, Cribs, Wilson, Elliott, Houston, Perriman, Sidey, Pendleton, McStay, DeGoey. There's probably a couple more. It makes us unpredictable. That's probably a really good one now to start into this topic of conversation. So dual players. So the first one that I have here is obviously Dan McStay. Another one here that I have is Cox, but they're sort of like in the same bracket. The other one I've got is Jordan DeGoey, and the other one there I've got is actually Josh Dacos. They're probably the ones that I want to talk about first. So, Team Elliott, do we see DeGoey as a predominant forward or forward for the rest of his career? All right, so we'll start. Now that we've said that, we'll just start straight away with Jordan DeGoey. I think Geordie plays his absolute best football in the forward line. I think since he's made I'd say full-time transition into the midfield, I think that's when his injuries have sort of come. If you look at like 18, 19, and 21, right, he dominated those seasons. And I feel as if not so much more 21, but the 18 and 19 season, he played more of a forward role from what I can remember. Well, I know in 18 he did. I know he was a lot younger then and his body wasn't as banged up. However, that's where I think he plays his best football. I think it's just that I hate using Jake Stringer as an example, but when Jake Stringer was younger, like Bulldogs Jake Stringer, when he was really good, like Premiership year Jake Stringer and stuff, in the forward line, he had that burst, right? Jordan DeGoey is way better than that, miles ahead of that. But he can play that role so well. And I just think with the amount of midfielders that we've got, you probably start him in the midfield, but you definitely want to do a 50-50 sort of rotation with him. But I believe personally that his best football is in the forward line. Jordan DeGoey and Bo, see, that might even be a good sort of switching option. Like you can put Geordie back on the half forward flank and then think, but also with the half forward flank, there's a whole heap of running. I think Geordie's best forward position is in the forward pocket. So, we'll see how it goes. But Geordie's definitely one of those players that's very unpredictable when he goes in the forward line. It changes our whole forward structure. So we're probably another solid midfielder away from having him back in the forward line permanently, but I don't think it's too far off. So the next one is, before we get to the ruckman and stuff, I want everyone's opinion here with Josh Dacos. Is Josh Dacos a halfback flanker? Is Josh Dacos a wingman? Or is Josh Dacos an inside mid? Personally, I think now with the acquisition of Harry Perriman, where he could potentially play halfback flank, wing, or in the middle, I would put Josh Dacos on the halfback flank for that extra security. I think that makes our halfback line way more stronger and quicker. And Josh tends to be able to run back as well, to double back and to get back. He can cover a lot of ground. So that's why the wing might work for him. But just with our back line not being as strong as we hope, I think he makes it. I mean, if you imagine on the half-back line, you've got Josh Dacos on one side and Dan Houston on the other. So, with that being said, you put him in the middle, though, and he could probably rack up like 40 possessions a game. So, it's a hard one, but that's just the position that we're in where these guys can play so many roles. I don't know if there's another team out there, and I tried to think of it today, another side that can actually do both, have as many players that we can that can play both. Like, I've got the whole Collingwood list up here on my other screen, and I'm not going to go through it because it'll take ages and be boring, but I could go through every single player and say, yeah, like Lipinski can play midfield, he can probably play half forward flank. Jordan De Goey midfield, he can play forward pocket. Isaac Quano, he can play half back flank, he can play back pocket, and you can probably throw him in the middle if you need to, if you're that desperate. Braden Maynard can play in the half back flank or on the wing. Jamie Elliott can play in the forward line, or you can chuck him in the guts if there's a rotation. Tom Mitchell, midfielder. Josh Dacos, you can play him in any line of the ground, on the wing, half back line, half forward line, in the middle. You know, and that's just like the first 8 that I've gone through. So it's massive. Dan McStay. Dan McStay is a funny one, and he's probably one of the most. I did my player spotlight on him last week, or start of the week, I can't remember. He is one of the most versatile big men in the competition. I don't think he's not as versatile and as like a Jackson from Fremantle, for example. But with that being said, the Brisbane Lions Dan McStay of 2022, right? He was just everywhere. He was like Brodie Grundy before, like when he was trying to win that big contract that ended up fucking everybody over, right? So I really think that McStay probably could help out and chop out in the ruck, which makes it more difficult for Cox to get into the team. But Dan McStay is such an important figure in our midfield. He needs to be at full forward. I think he's just, you lock that position for him, and there shouldn't be any other issues with the rucks and stuff, because Cameron can ruck in the defence, Cameron can ruck in the middle, and even if the ball comes in the forward line and it's a boundary throw-in or a bounce, put McStay in the ruck, right? Because then Darcy Cameron, right, can stay at the half-back or the centre half-back line, and if they get a stupid kick out of a pack, he's the tall option there for a mark, and he can kick it from 50 out. He's a pretty decent set shot at goal, you know? So I think about all these like different types of maneuvers and stuff that we could do, but I'd put Dan McStay in the ruck in the forward line the whole time. And even more so now that we have a Tim Membry, who is another big, mid-sized, tall forward that can just crash the pack. I mean, you see, if you look at his highlights on YouTube for 2024, if you go on there and type it in, it'll come up. Someone's posted it, and you see how many goals he's kicked from just scrappy play that you'd see someone like a Jamie Elliott, a Lockie Schultz, a Bobby Hill. Even when Ginnivan was with us, he'd do those dinky kicks so the ball was bouncing and it would go over for a goal. He's a big man doing that. That allows more dual positions and roles for other players if that aspect of our game is covered. So that's why I think McStay needs to be full forward, but he could probably ruck at the same time too in the forward line. Can he ruck around the ground and stuff like that? I wouldn't do it. I think he's too important in the forward line, and that's when I'd be looking at someone like a Mason Cox then to do the backup work, right? I mean, we've even got more guys that probably won't even get selected, like a Billy Frampton, who can relieve someone in the ruck if you needed to. So it's hard, but this is the good part of our side that we're able to do that now. I won't talk too much about Mason Cox. We all know what he's capable of. I think he's one of the best alone tap ruckman in the competition. What I mean by like alone tap ruckman is that when he's a ruckman, that's his job to tap the ball to a player. I don't like and not actually go for the second and third efforts. He does at times and it pays off, but he's probably too lanky to be on the bottom of the ground and stuff. But I do think that Mason Cox is one of the best tap ruckmen in the competition at the moment. And that's why I think I try so hard when I do variations of my team to put him in there, whether it's in a sub or on the bench, because the combination with Cameron just works. It works so well. We'll get to some more comments, and then I'll talk about some others. So, yeah, I spoke a fair bit then, and the comments are pumping, so I'll just go back to where. So Bozza says that Josh Dacos is a wingman. I think he is too, but I don't think he is this year. But then I think Josh Dacos is better at the wing than what Lipinski is, but I think you need Josh Dacos on the half back line, and you can put Lipinski on the wing. Half back. It's split. If I could do a poll here, it'd be interesting to see. I think, but it's almost split 50-50 here. Stepanos, Josh can be half back and wing, and he's deadly when pushing forward. Also, you know what's good with Josh though, and you can see it in the last couple of years. He's one of the only players that his delivery into the forward line is pretty decent. And I think now that we've got Perryman, right? And excuse me, I said this in my last slide, and I said this also on the podcast. I believe I said on the podcast. If you look back at the 2023 prelim final, now that we've got Perryman, I watched it not for the excitement of the game. I watched it to watch Perryman, right? The amount of times he took an intercept mark down back, he did just a couple of little tiny handballs and it broke the play open. There was congested play like on the broadcast side, so on the Olympic stand side, right in front of the bench. I remember seeing impacts, getting the quick little dinky hand pass out, or just rushing the ball and just like hustling it forward. And then GWS were able to sweep and go through. There was a play where he took the ball and he just ran through a pack and ran diagonally straight into the center 50 and delivered it perfectly to Jesse Hogan. Now, we have been screaming for so long for a player to deliver the ball into the forward line, apart from Nick Dacos, so perfectly, right? And to do it like, and I'm not talking like big 50-meter bombs into the forward line. I'm talking like halfway through the center square or on the wing, take a bounce, get in, bang, pinpoint someone on the chest. That's what Perryman can do. That's why I think Perryman's so good on the wing to get the ball in and rush it forward. If he's playing on the half-forward flank, it's not going to work. He's not a forward, right? If he's playing midfield in the middle as an inside mid, it's going to be more congested for him, so he'll be able to do it, but obviously not as much. If he's on the wing, right, or the half-back flank, and you're pushing up to a contest on the wing and he gets the ball and breaks free, I can see it. And when it happens and you're at the G or you're at an away game or whatever, and it happens, think of me now when I'm saying this, when Perryman gets the ball, breaks free, and just pinpoints down McStay, and he takes a clunk on the Jukes straight out, directly in front, 45 out, bang, goal. That's what I want to see. That can be one of the most deadliest plays. Remember when we had Adam Treloar playing, right? And Adam Treloar at his peak before he pinged both hammies in 2018, right? He was able to do all that. He was able to do all that with flair, but his kicking into the forward line was so sporadic. He could do it so perfectly, right? Even better than what Perryman can do, or he'd shank it completely. He'd kick it too far over, too short, too wide, or he'd kick it too hard into someone and they couldn't take the mark. It was so frustrating. He was able to Treloar's defense in the 2021 season when the Dogs made the grand final. He was doing it a lot better. And then I think like the last year and stuff, I think it was last year, he did it right too. So, you know, it'd be nice to have him back, but I think we're covered now, him now with Perryman. Another one too is Dan Houston. Before I talk about him, we'll get to some more comments because I sort of went a bit off track there. Chris Demac should play full forward, and when we are holding it up in the forward line, he can ruck forward and kick it forward. Yeah, that's pretty much similar to what I said before. Another one too, keep him forward and ruck there. Darcy Cameron takes care of the rest. I know. You know what? If Cox doesn't play, right? If Cox isn't in the side for whatever reason, that would be perfect because then it gives Darcy Cameron obviously that little bit of a reprieve, so he's not getting crashed and bashed or whatever. Because then just imagine if Darcy Cameron then sits on the half forward line, the team's centre half forward, because obviously everyone plays the zone pushing up now. That team centre half forward will be standing at the centre half back, so they're going to. And you think it'd be a tall person, so he's going to have to mount up with Darcy Cameron. So already then we're dragging someone out. So if the ball goes over, we can get our backman to sweep it around. There's all these types of different scenarios and stuff like that come to my head. But the fact is we've got the players now to do it. And it's only 3 acquisitions that we've got into our side, but it allows so much more to happen, which is awesome. What do you think of trading Cox at the end of the year? I don't think... Look, we wouldn't trade Cox because he's out of contract. I think he'd retire. I think that the whole trading Cox and Cox going to a different team is pretty much past now. The only thing that I can think of is if Mason Cox gets either delisted or would get delisted at the end of the season, regardless of how good he plays, and he believes that he can go another year, then I think another side would want him. Who do I think would want Mason Cox? I don't think anyone would. I think he's a bit older now, and while he's with us, he still has that role. I don't think another team really needs him. If there was a team that would need him, and I know this is going to be hard for some people to sort of understand, is I think he would be a good fit potentially at a GWS, because they don't have a big ruckman, a sole really good top 5 competition ruckman. I think he'd be handy there for a year for development for the younger guys and stuff. Whoever, I don't even know who their ruckman is. If anyone can put that in the comments, but that's just my personal opinion. I don't think he'd go anywhere. He wouldn't go to Essendon because Goldstein's a solidified ruckman, and he's not even going to get a game. I think Draper's going to play pretty much all season. Cox will retire before getting traded, pretty much. I think that's the case, regardless. Look, if we were, touch wood, hopefully, hope to God, to be successful this season, he would be one of them. I think Cox, Jeremy Howe, and one of Sidey or Pendles would go. And I said it last week, you can't lose all of them. You can't. Do you see the effort that Reef McInnes, Spall, and Cheek is running? Yeah, I actually watched Swoop Luke's video today, and he ran 20 metres from his opponent thing. And this is another thing too. He's playing opening round. He's in. He will play centre half back, I believe, in opening round. If he's going to play opening round, because obviously Houston's not playing, which I'm so spewing about, because if you put Houston our team opening round, we wipe GWS off the floor. I think Riccardi not playing for them is a big out, which we can probably use to our advantage, but that's a different topic altogether. He'll be centre half back. So with Houston coming in, you're going to have changes and stuff like that. Reef might still be in the team, but then be on the bench because you've got to do some shuffling around. Josh Dacos on the other half back line. Where does Harry Perryman play? Does he play on the wing? If Ed Allen goes in, does Ed Allen just go straight on the wing and then Perryman goes on the half back and then just Josh Dacos go in the midfield? You don't want to be a Collingwood selector. It's just all over the place, which is good. This is what we want. You know what I mean? Also, shout out to everyone who's on. There's about 30 people on watching at the moment, which is awesome. So drop a comment and stuff, and I'll try and get I'll try and get to everyone. We've already been on for half an hour, so I want to try and get through this as quick as I can. Josh Dacos and Cripps can swap positions, both play wing and mid and back. And this is the thing. Like Jack Crisp was another one. I was looking at his photo on my screen. See, he's a player that can play in any line of the midfield. He can play wing. He can play like centre on ball. He can play half back, not really forward, but he can play half back and push up. And he's like, it's funny how like we say that Hoskin Elliott, right? And he's the prime example. He epitomizes all this stuff that we're talking about today. He can play literally in any position. And I did a player spotlight on him. Actually, I'll do Hoskin Elliott now, and then I'll go to Dan Houston. But with Hosky, right, he can play halfback. He can even play in the back pocket if he wants to, right? And then, like, see, I see whenever Hosky's in the back line, have you noticed, like, if he gets the ball in the back pocket or whatever it is, he won't go down the line. He'll switch it. He's the player that gets the ball and switches across. if you see Hosking on the half back line, he'll get the ball and he'll take on his opponent. If the ball's in play, he will take on his opponent and he will bomb it to the half forward line. If he's on the wing, right, he just takes him on and he goes. If he's on the half forward line, he's going for goal, right? I think in 2024, in 2024, he did a lot of like the unselfish stuff and tried to pass it off and everything. But what I'm saying is he can play in any line of the ground. He is a Swiss Army knife. He can do whatever. The benefit of us this year is that we've got all these players that can almost do the same. He's probably the only player that can play in every line, apart from the ruck, obviously. But he's probably the only player that can play in every line because you can even chuck him in the forward pocket and he's probably going to take a hanger. Let's be real. Like, he's probably going to take one. So, I mean, he's going to be a player that we're going to miss really bad when he retires. He's probably got 2 to 3 years left max. And I think when he goes, we're going to feel it. I reckon we'll feel it. Just with his versatility. There's games where he plays shit. There's games where he doesn't get a kick or turns it over or whatever it is. He's only human. But when he's on and when he has a real, real good game, we usually convincingly win. All the good comebacks where we've all needed defibrillators, he's had a massive influence in. Now, Dan Houston. At the start of the season, at the start of the year, like pre-season, when we got him, it was half-back flank. Half-back flank. I don't know if he is going to be in the half-back line for very long. I think he'll start round 1, half-back, push in. Where does that leave us with like all the midfielders and stuff? I don't know. It throws a spanner in the works, but it's a good one. He makes the midfield amazingly elite. Imagine Cameron in the ruck, Pendlebury in the middle, Dan Houston in the middle, Jordan De Goey in the middle, right? And then on the wing, you've got like a Perryman and like a Josh Thakos or a Lipinski on the other end. Can you imagine? I know that Prinsky kind of brings that one down a little bit, but can you imagine that? Like, but then if you put him on the half back line, you put Nick Dacos in there. I didn't even put Nick Dacos in there. Like, are you serious? I did, yeah. I know I put the goal in there. Jesus. This is what I mean. Like, it's just stacked. So I would start him round 1 against Port Adelaide on the half back line, but then push in as an extra mid, as a fifth midfielder coming into all the stoppages and stuff. And I think we're going to see heaps of him getting the ball and running it and delivering it to a Myercheck, Membry, and a McStay. What is he better at? And I don't know. I genuinely don't know what he's better at. I'm not a Port Adelaide supporter. I loved watching Dan Houston play whenever I watch a Port game, but I don't know what he's better at. And I think we will find out in the first couple of weeks of the season where he is. If he stays, in my opinion, if he stays half back by Anzac Day, right, then I think that's his position for the year. If you see him start a game in the middle, I think the coaching staff are like, we're just going to play him wherever we think the best matchup is, which means he's got that perfect dual role. So it'd be interesting. Get back to some of the comments here. Update on Reef, new role. I've been out of the loop. Centre half back, looking good at training. Had a concussion at training, but he's now back. He spent all of last week in the rehab group and a bit of this week, but now he's back into full training, which is good. McStay predominantly rucked in the final against Melbourne Walls, drifting forward and kicked 2 goals. Brisbane won that final as the underdog. McStay was able to compete against Gordon very well. That's the game that I'm thinking. That's the game that when I think about his positioning and stuff at Brisbane, that's the game that I always remember. I just think he's too valuable up forward. And the only way that we could do that, touch wood, if it never happens, if Darcy Cameron goes down, then I think McStay may have to play that very similar role to that. But if you're not going to play Cox, McStay has to ruck in the forward line. Like, there's just a no-brainer. And he's a pretty good kick for goal. So, I mean, if he goes into the ruck and stuff, I mean, you can imagine like him getting a high tackle or holding the man free kick. Or with that being said, when does Collingwood get free kicks in the forward 50? You know? It pisses me off. Like 2002 grand final, I'm sorry, Chris Tarrant got jumped in the back when Buckley took the ball and like from the middle and kicked it behind. How did Taz not get that free kick? But anyway, whatever. Kane, I have seen this. Okay, so Kane Corns has us not finishing in the 8. All right. In the last 10 minutes of this live, I'm going to go back and I'm going to review with everyone my ladder. And I look at my ladder now when I did this only a few weeks ago, and I look at it now and I already start to see changes. That's why it's just so unpredictable. Not a lot, but I made one big bad call, and I think it's going to come up and bite me in the ass. So, I don't know, I might do another video before the season starts and say it, or I'll just stick to my guns and see how wrong I can get. Look, in regards to us not finishing in the 8, look, I'll say this about Kane. I listen to him quite a bit. There is some stuff Collingwood aside that he says that I 100% agree with, even if it's the stupidest thing ever. There's just some stuff I think he says which I think, that's not far off the mark, right? Regardless if it's not an unpopular opinion. When it comes to Collingwood, I can't get my bias hat off. And when I heard that he said that, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like, I look at some of these sides, and it is very even. The top 6 are going to be very even this season. I think potentially a 5th and 6th spot may actually be very like the same points or a game or a half a game away from like where 4th spot is and have better percentage. Like, you just don't know. To have us out of the 8, other supporters who think that might think I'm absolutely delusional, but I've got us in the top 4 by a clear country mile. So we'll see what he says. I hope he's wrong. He's fairly correct a lot of the times, but I think on this one he might be a little bit wrong. All right. Chris, here we go. It's a good one. Dan Houston is a shapeshifter and can play pretty much in any position forward line because he can launch it past 50 metres with precision midfielder because he's got the pinpoint accuracy and obviously defence. This is the thing. I don't think he can play forward. When you're talking about he can launch it past 50 metres, being a forward, you don't necessarily have to kick it from outside 50. It's more kicking the ball from a wing position, halfback position, or from a midfield position, grabbing the ball and running through and kicking it from outside 50. Similar to what we saw Buckley do all those years ago, where he'd take the ball and run and kick it from 50 or whatever. It was a game against Richmond, round 1, 2004. He did it first kick of the game. The grand final against Brisbane in 2002, he did it. There's many games. I think he did one against Geelong too back in the day. That's the type of play I think Dan Houston will do. So I wouldn't say he's an actual forward, but I'd say he's definitely a midfielder or a halfback. Kieran Briggs is the GWS ruckman. Thank you very much, Boz. What do you think of Darcy or Jeremy playing forward this year? Look, if the backline is stacked, and I should have put this in the dual position thing more for Jeremy Howe, Darcy Moore is a defender. He should not be in the forward line ever. If Darcy Moore goes into the forward line this year, there is some serious problems. Our backline is stacked. My ideal thing for my ideal setup would be to take Jeremy Howe out of the leadership group for this season. Take him out of the leadership group. It's probably going to be his last season. Give him the absolute free rein and express yourself. And if we put you in the back, do what you got to do. And if we put you in the forward line, go kick 3 or 4 goals against maybe a lower side if we have to, if we're rotating or whatever. I think we're going to see Jeremy Howe in the forward line this year. I don't think we're going to see it a lot, but I think we're going to see it at times. If there's an injury or a restructure, you've got that option there. And the fact that he can do that too is probably good for a person like Reef McInnes, who can then cement his spot in the back line. But then if you do that, If you do that, the problem is who from the forward line misses out. Because if Jeremy Howe, I was going to say Jeremy Cameron, I wish. If Jeremy Howe is, because of Darcy Cameron and stuff, if Jeremy Howe plays in the forward line, right, then Cox does not play. Because Cox's backup position from being a tap ruckman is being that deep on the line forward to run out and take a contested mark. So, as I said, being a Collingwood selector, to have a plethora of options and dual positions and stuff like that you can do is just insane. It's insane, and I think that's going to be our key point of difference this season. Bro, our team is like 99 chemistry. Oh yeah, like in FIFA rankings and shit like that. It's if it works, if they can. All right, so this is what I think. We've got so many different types of players that can play all these different positions, and they can all do it well. I mean, Josh Dacos can play halfback flank and play wing better than a sole halfback flanker or a sole wingman in almost any other team. He can do two positions, and he's probably like absolute elite at it, right? If we can get a team that is set from the start, and probably more so from like, I think it'll be like round 3 to 4, right? Potentially when someone like a Tom Mitchell comes back in or is available for selection, and you get that continuous like 3 or 4 games around the Anzac Day time moving forward from there, where these guys, we have the same team playing 3 or 4 weeks in a row. There's no injuries. You've got guys smashing the door trying to get into the team, but they just can't because these guys are winning games and they're playing good football. That's when our team is going to be 99% chemistry, because the guys that are busting their ass to get in are playing twos, and there is no reason why our VFL team shouldn't be up there, shouldn't be competing. I'm not win the flag in the twos, but like competing well and not being, second last on the ladder. For us to be where we want to be this season, and I said this last week, we have to get our twos to be playing consistently good football and to be there at the pointy end of the season. So these guys are still playing games. You know what I mean? Because if you're a Finn McRae, TJ, Jacob Ryan, Oleg Markov, even Ash Johnson, Billy Frampton, all these guys, Harry Dematia, like a Will Parker, if you're one of these guys, you want to play, right? So you've got to and if you're going into finals with the twos, you know where your position is. The twos are going to be you're going to be so invested in that. You're going to play really good football. So you want to have that chemistry all in the club, but we've got to get that consistency going where we have a team that plays and there's not much change every week. Is that going to piss people off? 100% it's going to piss other players off. But it's only going to motivate them to play better. Will we lose players at the end of the season? I don't think we will, even being in that position. Let's just say Harry Dematia, Jacob Ryan, TJ, I don't know, and someone else doesn't get a game this season because we're so consistent and stuff like that. With the retirements that are coming, right, I don't think they're going to leave. Finn McRae is probably the only one that I think will look for another opportunity. That's it. Because like Oscar Steen, Ilaru Smith, Cox is going to retire soon. So they're going to have their way into the side as well. So, but yeah, it is 99% chemistry, which is good. James, Himmels, one of my best mates is on. Love your work, mate. Best in the business. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Thank you for joining. Hope your mum's watching as well. Will Hoskin Elliott, legend. He's just amazing. Will Hoskin Elliott, Michael Gary. What's happening, mate? Will Hoskin Elliott and Hill will be a dangerous duo. Will Hoskin Elliott going for hangers and Hill at his feet, getting the loose ball for goal. I don't think Hosky will play there, but he can, and when he does, it's grouse. I think Jamie Elliott and Bo will have that sort of position tied up, and then you'll have someone like a Lockie Schultz when he comes off the bench and goes in, just creating havoc. I mean, our forward line is so stacked. I mean, it is so stacked. I encourage everyone, when you get a chance, go to the Collingwood website, click on teams, go to the drop-down menu, click AFL, and you'll have all the players there. You look at forwards, key forward, and you're like, how are you going to fit? How are these guys all going to fit into the side? Look at other teams, and you'll be like, what? Like, go look at St Kilda's. I can't believe we lost to them last season. If we lose to them this season, I fucking throw the towel in, seriously. I like to see us win bigger margins. We dominate playing games. Yeah. Like Pendle's 400 was so frustrating. Like, I mean, it was the climax finish. It was great. They shanked it. We won. Stick it up, yeah. I know they made finals, but did you really want to go finals and get pumped up and play the way you did, not kick a goal to the third quarter, whatever it is? You know what I mean? I just wish that game because we were always 2 to 3 goals like better than them, and then like 4 goals at one stage. They kick 1, maybe 2, then we sort of push away again. You want to finish those games off. That last quarter, kick a couple of sealers. You want to go. I mean, another perfect example last season. Oh my God, gather round. Like, how frustrating was gather round? Like, the first half, and I'll back myself to the hill by saying this. If you go back and you watch gather round, right, the first half against Hawthorn was probably the best football I've seen us play in years. I'm talking like the best football that we've played since like 2018 when we were playing good. The best footy that we played in all of 22. The best football that we played probably apart from the Port Adelaide game at home in 23 where like Pendles flicked it over to Dacos and he kicked that goal to Master and the Apprentice bit. That first half was the best football that I've seen Collingwood play. The second half was absolutely rubbish. Like, you could tell they were just like, we've done our job, that's it. Hawthorn should have won that game. Like, I'm a realist. Hawthorn should have won that game. But if we can play like that first quarter, and if we had played that style of football, that style of football in that first half for the majority of last season, we would have finished top 4, top 6. But that's what I want to see us do for the majority of this season and not fucking butcher it like we did. But yeah, winning more games for a higher margin will be fantastic. I'll get to a couple more questions before I go into my ladder for next season. This season we're going to lose about 9 players over the next 2 to 3 years. It'll be interesting to see how we approach the free agency market compared to the draft for the next few years. All right, the AFL Facebook page posted probably, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 days ago, Collingwood's best under 23 side, like Collingwood's like full side under 23s. There was players missing out on that. Throw in Tom McGuan's going to play in there as well. We're stacked. Forget this argument about like we're aging and stuff like that. The only reason why we're aging is because Pendle's turned 37. Otherwise, we'd be this is exactly the same as a couple of other clubs, still in the top 3. But we'd still be the same as a couple of other clubs, and nobody this season has said anything about Geelong. I mean, if I could find it, it'd be good, but there was a few more. Sorry, there was a few more. Like, nobody says anything else. But because it's Collingwood, and one of your star midfielders is 37, yeah, he's 37, but he plays better football than, half of the fucking 21, 22-year-olds at other teams. I mean, you put Pendles in a side like Essendon, Pendles in a side like even North, Pendles in a side like Richmond with all their kids. You put Pendles in a side with Gold Coast with like a Toot Miller and a Matt Rowell in there, and he's still their best midfielder. Like, stop it, man. I'm sick of that argument. I'm sick of the argument of us having such a dead list. Like, it's too old. This is your only time. We've got 3 years of competing. We've got 3 years of competing because we're not going to lose all these old guys at once. Right? If we win the flag, maybe we might lose the majority of them. I mean, and fair enough. But we've got enough. Like, we're stacked. I mean, look at our forward line. Apart from Jamie Elliott, they're all young. We lose Jamie Elliott in our forward line. I mean, we can replace that straight away. You lose Pendlebury in the midfield. Okay, Dan Houston can go in. We can get someone else then back. Oh, we're getting Thomas McGuire. I just find it stupid. I just think it's a stupid argument. So I'll get to my ladder that I posted in another video earlier on. So I got something in my throat. And I'm just getting it up here. So, sorry. It's a bit embarrassing. So I had Brisbane at 1, Collingwood 2, Geelong 3, Fremantle 4. I think that's fair. I still think Fremantle are good enough to make the top 4. Geelong, I'm going on purely just they're just there. So Geelong and Sydney are frustrating because they're always just there. And I think if you were a person from New South Wales and you were obsessed with the NRL, you'd probably say the same about Melbourne Storm. They're always just there. So that's my comparison to that. 5th, they've got Carlton. 6th, Hawthorn. 7th, Sydney. 8th, Port Adelaide. Now, I think I've made a mistake when I did this, just quietly. I probably should have put GWS in the top 8, but I don't know where. I think the only one out of the top 8 there that probably may slip, Brisbane may not finish first, depending because they've had such a delayed start to the year. Carlton may not even, I don't know, Carlton could make the 8 or they could be a serious drop. Sydney are the same. I think Hawthorn are going to play really well, but they've probably got that young list where there'll be that few games where they might be a little bit inconsistent. But then you also think to yourself, shit, they could just like smash it this season. And they've come awesome. Like I know they're our bogey team and I really dislike them, but I sort of enjoy watching them at the same time. I wash my mouth out. Yeah. Then you got like 9th, I had Western Bulldogs. So they're another one. They can finish in the top 4 or they can finish in the bottom 4. You just don't know. I had GWS at 10th. I had them as slipping. Then you've sort of got, I think, 4 sides that I think are going to be very even throughout the season. Adelaide, Gold Coast, Melbourne, and North Melbourne, I think are probably going to come up a little bit. And then 15th, I'm starting to get more followers now as I'm talking. 15th, I had St Kilda, 16th, West Coast, 17th, Essendon, 18th, Richmond. I'm starting to feel that St Kilda could even go lower because of the preseason they're having. But this was I did this a month ago, and already I'm thinking, I don't know. But I'm going to stick to it, and then I'm going to see how that goes. But it could be completely wrong. Who knows? But you listen to other podcasts and you hear people's opinions, and then you're like, oh, fuck, yeah, that's actually correct, blah, blah, blah. But then I think to myself, I really don't see a world where GWS, I'm going to eat my words here, I can feel it. GWS have got one of the best forward lines in the competition. I think Jake Stringer makes that forward line ridiculously amazing. But I just don't know about the rest of their side that could get found out. But that's where I had that. So I'll go back to some of the questions for the last few minutes because I've been rambling on here, and I've had a really good turnout tonight, so I appreciate everyone for coming on. Do you think Perryman will play more inside? I think Perryman will play inside against GWS in the first game. I think he's the one that takes that inside midfield role, and we will see what happens from there. But it's funny how Perryman plays his first game for Collingwood against his old side, and then Houston comes in round 1 and he plays his first game against his old side. Tell me the AFL didn't try and script that for the big narrative, you know what I mean? So I look like Steel Sidebottom every time I take my hat off. Sean, thank you for joining. I wasn't going to miss your comments, mate. Perryman can definitely play the role as an inside midfielder, but can play multiple roles. So I can see him being the Mr. Fix-It type. Yeah, there was I think it was an article that was shared from Pendles that he's just shown like so much leadership, and they compared him to like Luke Ball coming. So I mean, how good was that impact that we had? Like that impact. So the impact that we had of Darren Jolly and Luke Ball, I think we had the same impact with Tom Mitchell, McStay, and Bobby Hill in our team. And I think this year we're having the same impact. We're going to have the same, or I'd hope that we have the same impact again with Houston, Perryman, and Membry. and I think Membry's going to go under the radar in our forward line, something vicious. Sean, again, I've got us in the top 4 as a lock, but hoping for a top 2 finish so we can host a home qualifying final. But this is the thing: if let's just say, for example, we finish 3rd or we finish 4th, and someone like a Geelong finishes 1st, we play them at home in the qualifying final. I don't think it's really much issue. But I mean, you finish top 2 and you get that, and you get that advantage. But to be honest with you, if we're playing well and we haven't got many injuries and we're really hit form, and you get that week off before the final series, and I know everyone hates it, I love it. I love that week off because it can just get everyone going again, and the boys will train hard during the week too. You know what I mean? So it's not as if the intensity is stopping during the week. If we can get it right, I wouldn't care who we play against. If we make it and we're good enough to finish top 4 and we finish 3rd or 4th, give me anybody. Give me Brisbane at the Gabba. Give me Port Adelaide at Amy Park, or at whatever it's called. Give us anyone. I don't care. I really don't think that we would struggle against anyone. The only one that I think would be a really, really tough game would probably be GWS at the Cow Paddock. If that was a qualifying final and their home one, I think that might be a bit tough for us. But that's just because they've had it over there for a little bit now. But I wouldn't see anyone really being a problem for us. Loving the early 2000 flashbacks tonight. If you're loving these flashbacks, get on the Into the Woods podcast. I know it's getting late at night, so listen to it tomorrow if you're too tired, or if you've got nothing to do and you haven't got a missus that's telling you to go to bed or anything like that. But get on the Into the Woods podcast. It goes for about an hour and 40 minutes. Me and Dermot from the podcast, we talk everything from the late 2000s to the mid 2000s to grand finals to everything. We give all the players a review. It probably should be a 2-part series, but it's a big podcast, and I had so much fun doing it. So please, it's on YouTube. Get on it and have a listen or a watch. You see me on there too. And also, just on that too, if you're watching that podcast and you notice that I'm grabbing my arm here a fair bit, I had an allergic reaction to something, and I had full they were it wasn't like pimples or anything like that, but I had like a rash going all the way down my arm, and I was getting really worried about it when we were talking. And I realized every time I'm talking, it's not just the podcast that's going to go on Spotify, it's going to go on YouTube, and I'm like this the whole time, picking it and stuff like that. And then I realized I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, but I woke up the next morning and most of it was gone. All right. So Sean said, especially if we use some selection integrity and we play those fit and available, we have no excuses. A fully fit side to play every year. No need to play those who are injured. Well, yeah. I'm going to wrap it up soon, guys. What round do you think Demeter will debut, and where do you think he'll play in the Collingwood team? Look, here's a real interesting one, and I want to do a player spotlight on him on my videos, but I think I'm not going to, because I don't think we haven't seen enough. He's going to play in the 2 to start off with. It depends on where they want to play him, whether they want to play him on a half back line or potentially in the middle as an inside mid or as a wingman. But all those positions are stacked. And I think he's the right player that we drafted, but he could be that we've got so many of them, it could have been just at the wrong time, and he's probably just going to sit in the 2s and wait a little bit until we have that opportunity he has an opportunity to play. But I reckon if we haven't seen him by mid-year and he's fully fit and we've had some injuries here and there, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting if someone like Tom Mitchell comes back and gets into form and he hasn't had a crack yet. So, yeah, when Port start to struggle on a match, they would move Houston into the midfield and he will become an instant problem for the opposition with his ability to win clearance. The guy's a superstar. I'm not going to doubt that one bit. I'm going to just do one more. Who cares about the ladder, man? Talk about the Pies. Yeah, sorry. All right, I'll go into the last one. Yeah, we'll get to the last one. Voss turning into Ange Postecoglou. Do not disgrace Big Ange like that with Michael Voss. Postecoglou is a master, and he just needs to have his time at Tottenham. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave it there. We've been going for an hour now. Thank you, everyone, for joining. I mean, we had close to 40 people at once on the live, which was awesome. And there's probably more that came through and stuff that watched, but we got through a fair bit. Thank you so much for joining. As always, leave a comment, call it as you see it, and as always, go the Pies.